Hey everyone, and in today's video we're going to take a look at resource gathering, specifically mining. So we're going to take a look at how to set up a rock to be able to be mined. And if you see this little small rock here, it's going to create these little small rock instances that we can pick up by pressing E, and those will end up in your inventory, and we're going to be able to mine stuff. So if I go up to this rock and press E, the character will mine it, and as he's doing it, these rocks are coming out, and then the rock will be destroyed at some point, and we can pick up these small rocks. So I got a bunch, and you'll see that these pieces will delete themselves. They will remove themselves afterwards. So that is using only free assets, that method. And then if we go over here, if there's another asset pack called the Shatter Stone Starter Pack that you may have for free. It used to be free on the asset store they had a Publisher of the Week sale, and were giving it away for free. So you might already have this in your library. But they also have the starter pack allows you to mine ore as well, so they gave you a pyrite ore in that pack. And if I press E, I'll start mining it, and it will create refined pyrite. And again, it'll stop at some point. And then we can pick up the refined pyrite. So I'm picking it up. Pick that up, and then you'll notice that it's all in the inventory. So I've got 8 refined pyrite that came out of that, and small rock, 11 of those, because there was 10 that came off of that other one, and now all the pieces have been deleted that were left behind. So that's what we're going to accomplish in today's video. The assets you will need in order to follow along with this tutorial are Rocks and Boulders 2 by manufacturer K4. It's free on the asset store, so go grab yourself a copy. This is what I'm using for all the rocks in the scene. The basic pickaxe from Real Dedicated is a free asset you can grab, and it works well with this use case. As you can see, there's a character holding it, so go grab this. This is the one I'm using in the scene. The Human Crafting Animations free pack from Kevin Iglesias. These will give you 4 one-handed mining animations. So the only one we're going to use is the mining one-handed animations. Now, if you want the two-handed version, you can buy the Human Crafting Animations, which gives you all of the animations, including the two-handed variants of the mining animations. So you can grab this. It's currently on sale. And to follow along with the Shatter Stone part of the tutorial, where I show you how to use this Shatter Stone Starter Pack, it's normally $7.49, I think. You might already have this in your library for free, and if not, it's on sale, I think. But this has everything you need. It has the pickaxe, and it has the pyrite ore and the little pieces that come off of it. And so that's all you need for the Shatterstone pack. For Game Creator 2, we will be using the inventory module, the Stats 2 module, and of course the core Game Creator 2 module as well. So that is all the assets you need to follow along with this. So let's get started. So in the Unity Hub, I'm going to create version 6.3 of Unity I'm going to use. So the Universal 3D Core URP template. And I'm going to call it GC2 Mining Tutorial. And we're going to create the project. All right, so the project's loaded. So now we're going to remove these README assets. And now we're going to install the assets. I'm going to start with Game Creator 2. And we're going to download these updates first. So we're going to download Game Creator 2, Stats, and Inventory. Now we'll install Shatter Stone Starter Pack. And Rocks and Boulders 2. Rocks and Boulders 2. A basic pickaxe. And the Kevin Iglesias Human Crafting Animations free. Get that one. And I'm going to also install the Human Crafting Animations, the full pack, since I have it. And we'll see what you get with this. That's all the assets we're going to need. And when we install Game Creator, we should also install the examples. So now we have everything installed that we need to continue, and we're finally ready to start building out the scene. So to get started, we are going to create a new scene called, we'll call it mining scene. And we're going to create a plane and call it ground. And we're going to make this 20 by 20. And we'll give it the material prototype guide darker. And we'll see the pink there. We need to run the pipeline converter. Go. And we'll bring in a game creator character, the player. And we'll set up a camera shot. That will be the third person camera shot. And now I'm going to change this from to so that I have to press the right button to move the camera. And we'll change the sensitivity to -1 as well. I like to reduce the max pitch on this and get rid of this shoulder value as well to get rid of the offset. And it is main shot, and then in the main camera, we need to do the zoom in for avoid clipping, so the camera won't go through the ground, etc., through objects. So let's just test to make sure that this is working. And yes, it's working, so we're good to go. The only thing I like to do with the prototype shader is to make the tiling 16 by 16 on the, not the detail inputs, but the surface inputs, 16 by 16, so you get smaller grid lines. Okay, so we have our characters set up. Now let's take a look at the, first we're going to take a look at Shatter Stone and see what comes with that. So Shatter Stone here, it has the documentation, it tells you how to use it, but they have some prefabs here. So if we bring in the Pyrite ore, let's just bring it into this to the scene here. Put it so it's like halfway in the floor a little bit. And then we want a pickaxe as well, just to show you how this works. We're going to rotate it like this. I think. Yeah. And then make sure it's lined up with it too, because I'm just going to do this in run mode. And maybe down a little bit. So if we look at the pyrite ore prefab, there is a or node script on it. This is how they're doing it. So you can configure how many hits it takes to destroy it, how many pieces you're going to get, the refined pieces, or actually no, how many pieces this will break into, and what will drop every time you hit that. You get 1 refined pyrite. So the refined pickup is how many, the 1 is how many drops every time you hit it. So you should get 4 refined pyrite out of this once you destroy this whole thing. And then there's some knockback settings. I'm not going to change any of that. We're going to keep the defaults. Enable respawn as well. Once it's destroyed, it'll respawn after 30 seconds. We can maybe reduce that so we can see it happening quicker. And there's an audio source on it as well because it has its own audio settings as well. So it plays audio as well. So if we can just see this in action in play mode. I'm just going to go over here and look. And then the scene view, I'm just going to use this and just move it over. Okay, it's not working. Their pickaxe. Oh, because I had the wrong thing. Just be careful which item you pick up. It has a pickaxe trigger. So the pickaxe has a pickaxe trigger on the parent object. This is just a mesh. And if you want to do this in play mode, it's also got a collider on it. So this collider needs to collide with the ore in order to do anything. If I move it over, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will automatically do that. And now we have all these pieces in which you can kick them around as they have rigid bodies on them. And then we'll see it should disappear. Oh, it actually respawned itself already. So let me increase that. So we want it to respawn. Maybe the delay is 20 seconds. Yeah, put it back to 30 seconds. Okay. So let me move the pickaxe over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The whole thing is destroyed. You'll see that these pieces are just hanging in midair. That's because these refined pyrite. We'll take a look at that prefab then. The refined pyrite has no rigid body on it, so there's a pickup controller. Determines like if it's going to spin and all these things. It will despawn after 60 seconds. The refined pyrite has this pickup controller. So it's got these animation settings and stuff like that when it spawns. But the problem is it's meant for you to write code to be able to pick. If you want the player to pick it up, then you got to write your own code. So we're going to do it using Game Creator 2 instead. So what we're going to do is I'll keep this, but I'm going to disable the despawn so that it doesn't go anywhere until the player picks it up. So the animation stuff will still work. The way it works is these will hang in the air because there is no rigid body on them, no collider either. So we'll just leave it as that for now. And I'm going to remove the pickup control. Well, actually, we can leave it and then just get rid of the despawn, and we'll see what happens, I guess. See what happens. It also has a sphere collider as a trigger. So, and its own audio source. So let's see. But we want to be able to pick up refined pyrite. So we are going to, so now the inventory system comes into play. So before we worry about destroying the pyrite ore and instantiating refined pyrite, which it does automatically, we want to be able to pick these up. So I'm going to set up an item in the inventory system. So let's create a folder for that, items. So we're going to create an item, game creator, inventory item for refined pyrite. And the prefab is going to be we're also going to need our own version of the prefabs. So what I will do, instead of using this one, we're going to instantiate it here. And then I'm going to drag it to the new prefabs folder to create a variant, prefab variant. So then we can make changes and it won't affect the original prefab. So now in the items, we're going to say refined pyrite is this variant. So if you drop it, that's what's going to instantiate. Let's put a description and a name. And so we're just going to say use to make pyrite ingots. We're not actually going to implement that whole crafting system, but this is what you might want to do. And then we have the shape. We want a max stack of 10 so that we don't fill up our inventory. And the default price is fine. And so all we need now is a sprite for the inventory screen. So what we will do, so the easiest way to make a sprite is to use this asset called Rapid Icon. So I'm going to install Rapid Icon. It's an icon generator. So we just go to our prefabs directory. There's only one in there, so it gives you can rotate it around. And when you're happy with what it looks like, you can come here and go export. And it will go into the assets, Rapid Icon exports, and it will create a PNG of that prefab in an icon format. So we're going to export the currently selected variant. So that's done. We can go to the exports directory and see that it's a 2D, it's an icon now that has this. So this is what it'll look like in the inventory screen when we bring it up. We have our refined pyrite and then the variant. So now we want to be able to pick it up. So we're going to put a hotspot on this. And we will show floating text. And the prefab is going to be interaction, the interaction tooltip focus. And then the other thing we're going to add onto this is a local name variable called item. And it's going to be of type item. And then we're going to point to the item that it corresponds to that we just set up. So now the text can be the item name or description. We can use item name here so that we don't have to hard code it. It's going to pick up the name from the item that we created. And then, so we have our hotspot. And now we need a trigger for interaction. So on interact from the player. So this is one way you can do it, by dragging in the item. The other way is you can use this variable. So instead of this, so we'll still use item name, but instead of item, we're going to use local name variable. And then the variable is going to be self. And you have to type it in because it doesn't bring up the drop down, but item is the name of the variable we created that's storing what item it is. So we can do self items name, and instead of offset 0, we want the up so that it will be floating above the item. So now when it's interacted with, so we're going to check if the player can actually pick it up. So we'll run a condition or check conditions. If can add, it's going to be a local name variable, self. Again, we type in item, case sensitive. If can add self item to player, or you can use, instead of player, you can use target, which will be whichever is going to be the player. But if you weren't using specific, if it was it could be any NPC or whatever, any character. So that would be target. So first of all, if we can pick it up, then we're going to turn off the is controllable, so the player can't move around while it's being picked up. So we're going to bookend it with false and then re-enabling it at the end. We're going to do a gesture. We're going to pick up the object. Let's look at the human animations here. So it's in the human animations mail MISC, and we have a pickup object, either left-handed or right-handed. So we're going to play the gesture. So that would be, and these Kevin Iglesias animations are simple to use. All you have to do is open that up and drag and drop the animation clip that's already configured with the proper avatar and all that, so you don't need to worry about that. And that's it. So we're going to take a look at this gesture, and you can preview these by going into them, and we can play them. So that's what the pickup looks like. It'll just play once, which is about a second, 1 second, or half a second. So what we could do is at the half a second mark is when we can actually like pick up the object. Let's see. Okay, so we want to put that in there. And then we do not want to wait to complete if we're going to do that. So then we can, and the original has a pickup sound effect, I think. So let's see. Yeah. There's they provide it. So let's see. I think it's in here. Pickup. Yeah. So let's do that. So we're going to play the sound effect. Play sound effect. And we're going to use pickup 1 as we're picking it up. So it will, and then we're going to wait half a second to first 0.5. We're going to wait half a second, then play the pickup audio. Then if you see over here, the actual mesh is a child object. So what we can do is delete all the children of itself after we pick it up. So if we want to destroy more than one thing, what's good here is in the hub, there's a destroy all children thing that we can install. So I'll install that. So then we'll use that, and then it'll get rid of the particle effect as well. Okay. So now, destroy all children of self. So it will get rid of the mesh and so anything visible, all the visible items. So next we can add it to the player's bag. So add item to the target. And again, we can look at the local name variable for this object to the target. So whoever's interacting with this, we will add it to their bag. And then, so we have to put that in there. And then is controllable equals true. And then we still have the actual parent object hanging around, so we want to delete that as well. So we will destroy that as well. We can say self. Oftentimes it's good to wait 1 frame before doing that. So I'm going to wait 1 frame to see, because sometimes you get these weird errors. So in those cases, wait 1 frame will help with those situations. All right, so we can test this pickup if we add it to the scene. There is one in the scene. This is the prefab. Yes, it is. The other thing we need to do is instead of the player, or we need to set up the inventory system. So plugins. So the inventory examples, prefabs. We want this player inventory list instead of the player. So let's delete the player and we'll bring in the player inventory list instead. Put him at y equals 1 and 0, 0, I guess. Same place the other player was. So this one is pre-configured with the bag already. So it can, the inventory key press of I is already set. So the other thing we need is an event system as well. Otherwise we won't be able to interact with the UI panel. The inventory screen without it. So let's just test if that works. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to check my inventory. So there's nothing in the inventory. And then interact. And now let's check our inventory. And we have it there. We forgot to put the sprite. So we got to go back to the item, refine Pyrite, and check the sprite because we forgot to add the sprite to it. Oh, and then, so this is just a PNG. So we need to change this to a sprite and single and then apply. And then back in the item, we can now drag and drop that sprite. Now we can see. Okay, and then inventory. And now we have refined pyrite in our inventory. We can drop it. So if I would come over here and drop, it instantiates it right here. It's floating midair and rotating because that's what this script is doing. The pickup controller script, that's what it's doing. So if we had despawn enabled, this would only be there for 60 seconds. But we can still pick it up though. It's in midair, but keep picking it up and dropping it, etc. So that's our refined pyrite. So now that we have got our own refined pyrite, make sure that all the overrides need to be applied are done. Delete it from the scene. The pyrite ore prefab that we're using, let's create a variant of that too, so that we can make changes to it and not affect the original. So what we need to do here is instead of the original, we want the variant to be spawned when we're interacting with that. So, but now it should actually work. Let's go over here. And in play mode, I'll just do this. 2, 3, 4. So now the player should be able to pick those up. 7, 8. It spawned 8 refined pyrite, so we have 8 in our inventory. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says hits to destroy. Oh, drop on destroy. That's why. So we get one. So here's why we get 8. We get 1 every time we hit it, and then we get 4 when it destroys the whole thing. So you end up with 8 total. So 4 hits plus extra bonus 4 at the end of the refined pyrite. So you get each boulder there gets 8 pieces. So next, let's set up the interaction with the ore itself. And for that, we're not going to need the pickaxe in the scene anymore. It'll be instantiated in the player's hands instead. So if we look at the pyrite ore in the scene, we're going to add a hotspot to it. Show floating text. This one, we're going to use the same tooltip interaction focus. Also, we're going to get a local name variable on this and the variable name of item, and then we don't have a pyrite ore item, so we need to create one. Item, pyrite ore. This one's not going to go in our inventory at all, but you're not going to be able to drop it. You're not going to be able to pick it up. Really no reason to put anything in there because it's not going to go in your inventory. Just so that we can use the fact that the item name can be stored in here. So we're storing the name of the item in there. So instead of hard-coded text, we can look for the item variable. Constant up, so show self item. It'll just show you the item name. And then we want a trigger for interaction. And then when the player interacts with it, what we want to do is instantiate the pickaxe in the player's hands, and then have the player do the mining animation. And when the pickaxe's collider intersects with the ore, then it'll automatically do all the rest is done automatically. So first of all, we're going to need a new state called mining. So we're going to put the player in a state. Let's create a folder called states. And we'll put all our states in here. And characters, animation state. And we'll call the state mining. And it asks for a state clip. There's an entry and an exit as well. We're going to use the free this one. We're going to use the free version of the human animations. If you have the free pack, all you're going to have is 4 animations. So there's mining animations. You're going to have the one hand left, ground, and wall. So basically, you'll have one hand left or one hand right. So you'll see the player will be holding the pickaxe with one hand. The other one it comes with the full pack is the loop ground, which has its both hands, more traditional animation with both hands being used. And the full version also comes with a begin, which is when the axe is appearing in his hand. So it's just, he's grasping it. And then the out one where he's letting it go and then it disappears. But then the free version we'll just use that. So let's see, states, mining, and then we need the mining state. So the state clip is what it's going to keep playing over and over again while we're in the state. So we will do the right hand ground one. And that's all we need to put in there, actually. Now let's go back to the ore. Now that we have our state in place, now first thing we want to do is turn off the ability for the player to control the player. And then we can now attach a prop. So we're going to attach a prefab. So we're just going to give it the game object. So that would be in here, NV3D, the Shatter Stone, prefabs, pickaxe. So there we go. And it already is defaulted to the right hand. So we're going to put it in the right hand. And then once the player has picked it up, we're going to enter the mining state. And we're not going to come out of this state in this trigger. We need another trigger because when this thing is being mined, once it's finished, it deletes itself. So we would want a trigger to detect when this game object becomes disabled or inactive or deleted in this case. So we have the on disable event. So when this ore becomes deleted or it'll disable it before it gets deleted. So this will run. So, and when it does, the last thing we're going to do is make the player controllable again. We need to do that. And then we will drop the axe. So remove prop from the player. That's the pickaxe. And we need to stop the state. Stop state, and it's in layer 1. So we'll put the controllable down here, and we'll have it in that order. So then the player should automatically stop, and that should do it. So let's test this out and see if it works. Okay. So we come up to it. Oh, name of item. I probably didn't put the name in. Let's fix that. Name. I did put the name in. Okay. I don't know why it didn't work. Oh, wait. Do I need to apply to all the overrides? So, item, pyrite ore. Oh, self item. Oh, I think I didn't do this right. Text. inventory item name. Then we do the variable. Then the game object item. That should work. A little bit tricky sometimes. Okay. And now it says Pyrite ore, and now. And it keeps going a little bit because it's not destroyed yet. That's the problem. We have to make it destroy faster, I think. So let's see if there's something I can do here. Respawn delay. We'll disable respawn. Okay, so once it deletes itself, then it stops. And we can now pick up all the refined pyrite. And we have all that in our inventory. So the only thing we need to fix is where the pickaxe gets put in the hand. So we're going to take a look at that. So it is going into the right hand. So if we look at the mannequin, we can do this here and see where it's going to go. Right shoulder, right arm, right forearm. It'll be a child of the right hand bone. So if we take the prefab, put the pickaxe at 0, 0, 0. Okay. And now we want to position it so that the player is holding it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, so that's close enough, I think. And we can maybe go up a little bit on that, just so we get more length off of it. Maybe the hand should be there. I'm not sure if it's designed to be held like that in this little area there. So now we have an offset here. We can do that, block that, and then come to the ore and get the properties. And then come in here where the attached prefab is, and then put the offsets in here. So 0.119.032, negative 0.827, 0.687, 99.21. And that should do it, hopefully. And then we can delete this pickaxe there. And we'll see if that helps the problem. Okay. So now it's a little bit rotated still. Looks like it's in his hand though. But so what we can do is see rotation. I think it was okay. So right hand. I think it was Well, if I do this, I don't know why it does that. I don't know if it's a Unity 6.3 issue, but every time I try to rotate something, it does that. Yeah, let's see if that works better, I guess. Mm-hmm. Is when you have to visualize what it's going to look like when he's actually holding it. I think we got to rotate it another. Let's rotate this. And like that. All right, we'll try it like this, and then we'll reset that. So we got 0.107, 0.041, -79, 316, 34, 27. We'll see if that works better. Okay, so this is helpful as well to leave it in his hand. So at runtime, he holds it like he's gonna hold it. So then we can just delete this or disable it so that when we go up to it, it'll put a new one. So yeah, it looks better now. So he's actually mining it properly, I guess. So there we go. Okay, just one more problem with the pyrite ore that we need to fix. Let's take a look. We go over to the pyrite, and then let's say we're not perfectly lined up and we're facing away from it, yet we can still interact with it. So if we press E, he's going to go into mining mode, and then the collider will never hit the ore, so he'll be stuck in mining mode forever. So to fix that, what we need to do is add a marker onto this prefab. So let's just create an empty child, a marker, and we can put it where we want the player to interact with the ore. So right there maybe, and put it around on the ground, I guess. So put it there, and then basically all we have to do is in here where the interact trigger is, we want to move the player, move to the marker. So the marker here, right here. And that will move it and rotate it in that direction so that it will the axe will always hit the pyrite ore. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to apply that override. And then now we'll try it again. And this time, if I do the same, it'll turn the character in the right direction. And there we go. And it will stop eventually. Okay. Okay, so that's the Shatter Stone method, if you have the Shatter Stone pack, how to do this. Now, there's the other way of doing it. Now, this is where the Rocks and Boulders pack is going to come in to play, as well as the basic pickaxe. We're going to implement a similar type of mining system from scratch instead of relying on the third-party asset. So we're going to do all the logic in Game Creator 2. It'll be similar, but it will have to add more we'll have to do more to get this to work. So that's what we will work on next. So for this one, we'll need the Rocks and Boulders 2 from manufacturer K4. It's free in the asset store. I will leave a link down below. It gives you some rocks and comes with prefabs as well. So once you have that installed, you'll also need the basic pickaxe from Real Dedicated. So the basic pickaxe is also free on the asset store. So grab this and add it to your project. So now that we've got it in our project, we've got both the basic pickaxe. And if you're using URP, you can double click the URP package to bring that in. I haven't done that. So we're going to bring it in with the URP package. So now it should show up the textures correctly. So that's all we need there. And then the Rocks and Boulders 2 comes with a demo scene as well as has prefabs, and those ones are good for URP already, I think. If they're not, then you would run the pipeline converter, render pipeline converter. But if it doesn't show up correctly, and then there's prefabs with snow on top of them. So we have one with snow. So let's just pick one of these, rock 5B. I'm going to bring it into the scene. It's a pretty big rock, but we can still use it. So what we want to do is to be able to break this up, to be able to make this fall apart as we mine it. You're going to need to fracture this rock. And if you don't have Rayfire, you could use Rayfire for this to fracture your object, but I do believe it's a bit of overkill for what we're doing here. So, and I don't have Rayfire, so I'm not going to use it. So instead, what we can use is Blender, and they have a free fracturing plugin for Blender that we can use. So we're going to take Rock 5B, and we're going to export that to FBX. So if we go Game Object, if we have it highlighted, and then go Game Object, Export to FBX. This will only show up if you have the FBX exporter installed. So if you don't have it, it's in the Unity registry. You can just search it for FBX exporter, and then you can install it from the package manager. And then once it's installed, you have the export options. You can put it to a path wherever you want. I'll just put it to have an export folder. And then it automatically selects the transforms, and we need to put binary because Blender does not support importing ASCII. And let's embed the textures and then click export. And if you already have one of the same name, you can just say overwrite. So now in my exports directory here, I have the Rock 5B, the one with the snow on it. And just ignore this one. This was one I used earlier, but we're going to replace that with this one. So let's go over to Blender. So I'm in Blender 4.5 LTS. It also works in 4.0, I believe, but I think 4.1 is when the fracturing plugin became available. So if you go Edit Preferences, and I think Add-ons, you look for Cell Fracture in the add-ons, and make sure that there's a checkbox next to it, and that means it's installed. So if there's not, just check the box, and it will install it. So once that's installed, we can import our FBX, and we navigate to our Unity project, Assets, Export, and the FBX that we just exported. And we should be able to just go Import FBX. And it comes in with no textures because we're in the regular unshaded, untextured mode. And we want to you can do that viewport shading, and turn on the textured material preview so that you can see that the materials that has come in with it. And we have our Rock 5B here. So as long as that's selected, then you go Object, Quick Effects, Cell Fracture, and we can take all the defaults, and it will do it. And it creates as many pieces as it needs to. And we have 83 pieces, and we can delete the 5B by pressing X, highlight, press X to delete it. We won't need that anymore. And then for each one of these, you could see with the G key if you wanted to see how big they are, and then right click to put it back, as long as you put it back in place. But what we want to do now is select all of them and export it back out. So File, Export, FBX. And then we go back to our Unity project, Assets, Export, and I'll call this one Rock 5B Fractured Snow. And we want to make sure that we only limit to selected objects and just the mesh object type. And then export FBX. All right, so that's exported, so we can go back to Unity. So back in Unity, we have our 5B Fractured Snow, and the material is still showing in there, so that's good. And we have all of our pieces in there. So now we can just drag it into the scene. That's the original rock. I'm just going to turn that off for now. Now the Fractured Snow one, just going to look at it. We're not going to leave it in the scene view, but we're just going to see what happens when it gets instantiated after we do a couple of things to it. So we have the Rock 5B. So if inside of it, you can see all of the different pieces, all fractured into a bunch of pieces. So now what we want to do is, if we want this to, use physics when it instantiates, like the other one was, like the chunks were moving and stuff. So we want to be able to make those fly a little bit or move a little bit with physics. So what we want to do is select all the objects inside of it, and we can add a rigid body to it. By default, the mass is only 1, and it will fly everywhere with this. So what we want to do is put mass to 100 and linear damping to 5, because then it'll slow it down. It won't it won't just not explode all over the place. We don't want it to move too much, but we'll use the linear damping 5. And we also need a mesh collider on that. So mesh collider, and Make sure that's convex. And we have our colliders on each one of these. So that's that, and that's all you need to do to put physics into it. So if we run the scene, you'll see that it automatically just falls apart into different objects. So it's just falling apart with physics. And the mass is enough that only the small ones will move. You'll be able to move them around a little bit, but the bigger ones, they're hard to move. So rocks are supposed to be heavy. You're not supposed to be able to just kick them around too much, so that's why we did it that way. So now that that's done, we would need a method of getting rid of it. Like, unless you want to keep it forever in your scene, most games they get rid of all of these pieces after a little bit. It cleans itself up after it's been mined out. Basically, this would just be the mined out state. There would be no more mining allowed on this object. But so on each one of these, what we want to do is have it clean itself up. So we're going to put it on all 83 objects. So we're going to put a trigger on here. Just an on start trigger so that when it gets instantiated, then we want to wait a certain number of seconds. And for that, we can say random range. And I'm going to put it between 5 and say 30 seconds. So within 5 and 30 seconds, so by 30 seconds, this whole thing will clean itself up. And then all we're going to do is say destroy and self. So it will destroy itself in between 5 and 30 seconds. And we can do, instead of doing this manually on all these, we can copy it and then select all the rest and paste it as new. So then we get it on every one of these now. They all have it. So now we can see that it will clean itself up. The other thing we should do, though, that will leave this parent object, which will be empty, but it'll be still in the scene. So we want to clean that up as well. So let's add a trigger to this one. And then what we're going to do is just an on start trigger. And we're going to wait 5 seconds. And then we're going to restart instructions. So that's just, and then we're going to use a conditions. So what we want to do is check if there's no more child components left. So if the child count of self is less than, let's see, equals less than or equal to 0. It shouldn't go below 0, but you could do less or equal, you could do equal. Should be the same. I kind of like to do less or equal just in case, but it should never go below 0 anyway. So if self children ever goes to 0, then we want to destroy itself. Just destroy self. So that's it. And then all we got to do here is run that condition. And I'm going to put it at the beginning of the event. So then it'll just loop here every 5 seconds until it finds that there's no more children, then it'll destroy itself after that. So let's check it out. It should work. Now we should see it start deleting the pieces. Okay, they're starting to go away. The random is good, so it doesn't all destroy at once. So it'll gradually just clean itself up until there's nothing left. Okay, and then if we look in the hierarchy, the rock parent object is gone as well because it's deleted itself. So that we're ready for that. So now what we want to do is make this into a prefab. So let's put that over here. Drag it into our prefabs folder, and then it will be instantiated at runtime. So let's delete that, and then we'll bring back the original Rock 5B. I'm going to use the snow one. Let's see. This one doesn't have snow on it, so let's delete that. And get the one with the snow. Rock 5B. And yeah, that should be the one with the snow on it. Okay. All right. And we're going to make it so that it's a little bit into the ground a little bit like that. Right. So what we want here is like a place where the character will walk up to it and start mining. We're not going to allow the character to mine on anywhere on it. You could allow that, but for this, I'm just going to do it. We could have multiple markers and stuff, but what we're going to do is inside this prefab, we're going to create a marker. So we're going to create an empty child called a marker. We're going to add a marker to it. Right. And we're going to put it wherever we want the interactable point to be. So, and the direction is going to be facing the rock. So let's say we want the character to come up to this area right here, like say here, and then he'll start mining from there. Okay. The other thing we need is a trigger for when it gets collided with. So we're going to need another collider because this just has a mesh collider on it. But we need like a trigger collider. So I'm going to create an empty child called trigger collider. And that's going to be, I'll add a box collider to it. And this is going to define the area of the object that the axe will be hitting pickaxe. So if we have it like here, like right around there is good, I guess. Wherever the axe will be hitting it, and we can make it a little bit bigger. So like that, perhaps. And then it'll have it's got a trigger on it. So that there, okay. So whenever the axe hits this trigger, something will happen. So we need a trigger on this as well. So this one will be on trigger enter. And we could either use you could use just on trigger enter or on trigger enter tag. So what we could do is use a tag of, and we're going to give that pickaxe, the basic pickaxe, a tag. So if we go here, we can give it a tag of pickaxe. Pickaxe. So then we would go in here, and so if the pickaxe enters, the collider of the pickaxe enters this, then it will cause the rock to be hit. So for that, we want the rock to have a health on it so that it can reduce the health, and then when the health goes to 0, it will fracture this whole the fracture will be replaced. Like we'll swap in the fractured version of the rock. So that's what we need to do here. So Let me just look at the pickaxe again. We have that's untagged again. Let me make sure that's tagged properly. Pickaxe. Okay, so that should work now, yeah. So that'll be instantiated in on the player. So we need to give the rock a health. So we're gonna I'll just create a stats folder. So this is where we need the stats module. And we're gonna create a class. Game creator stats class. And we're gonna call it rock. And the attributes, and we need an attribute and a stat. If we have the examples installed, we can just use max HP stat, and we can use HP as the attribute, and that should do it. The max HP is set to 100 by default in the example. So, and then all we have to do is add a traits onto the rock and use the rock class. So now when we run this, we should see in here how many hit points it has. So that's it here. We have rock 5B, and then under the traits, and we want to apply the overrides. So apply all so that it goes into the prefab. And then traits should show up at runtime. We look at the max HP. Oh, the other thing we need, yeah, that's what. So we didn't see anything because we were missing something. So let's see that. We also need the attribute of level or stat of level. And we need the experience as well. Experience. I think that's all we need because the max HP uses a formula that uses level and HP. I don't think we need another attribute. No, that should be fine. So now when we run it, we should see it's how many hit points it has. If we click the rock, yes, so we have 100 hit points. So it's level 1. It's never going to level up, but you just needed that for the max HP formula to work. So that's it. So now we go to the trigger collider. Every time the pickaxe hits it, we're going to reduce the hit points. So change attribute, game object. We'll just select the game object. And the attribute is HP. And change, subtract. And we could subtract, say, 25 hit points. So 4 times the player will hit it, and it will then break apart. And so we want to reduce the hit points, and we need our little piece that gets instantiated. So we need that as well. So we're going to use in the Rocks and Boulders 2 prefabs. You can use either one. I think it's Rock 3, maybe. But just find one of these small rock. No, that's too big. Rock 2. No. 1A. So we're going to take one of these and we're going to make it small. So we're going to create our own little piece, I guess. So rock 3, but put it in the scene. It's massive, but if I scale it down, we can make it a small piece. Now I'll put it next to it's still too big, I think. We'll scale it down to like 0.05, I guess. We'll have it there. So you'll get these little chunks off of it. So, and then we can make this a prefab variant by dragging it into our prefabs folder. So you can either make it an original or select prefab variant, and then you get your Rock 3 variant. So there we go. So every time we hit the rock, we want to instantiate that. So first of all, we need to know where to instantiate it. So we're going to put another marker. So let's duplicate this marker. And then we'll call this the rock marker. And we're going to put it right up in here, near to the where you want it to instantiate. And then instead of direction, we're going to use inwards. And then we can set the radius accordingly. Like that. So then it's going to instantiate inside the circle. So somewhere inside that circle, it'll be instantiated. So that's that. Let's leave it like that. And then, so then in the trigger, we can do an instantiate. And the game object is going to be the prefab here. And instead of player position and rotation, we use game object position. And in the marker, and the rotation will be just 0. And we don't need a parent, so it'll just instantiate that. And then once it instantiates, it'll just be on the same position. You'll get all the objects on the same position. If the rock has a collider, it does. We're going to make it a convex collider. Let's just see what happens to it, I guess, when we instantiate it. But we could also add a little bit of a physics to it when it instantiates. So we would put that in here on the actual prefab here. And we could do an on start trigger. And then just put a little physics explosion force on itself. And the radius, if we can use that marker. I don't know. No. We can set the radius accordingly. I'm not sure how big radius we want. And then the force, right? So force mode, we'll see. You can tweak that. So then when it instantiates, it'll move a little bit from where it is. Okay, I think that's it for now. Okay, so then we're gonna instantiate a variant. We're gonna do it first, so then you'll get 4 rocks out of it. And next we need to actually put the pickaxe in the player's hand, but we also need a hotspot here too. So let's add a hotspot so that it can be interacted with. So we can do show text, and then it'll be mine. And the offset should be up. You might need to go up higher though. It's a big rock, so we could always use a value. The y equals say 2, 3 maybe. We'll see where it goes. And then the interaction tooltip focus from the examples. So we have that, and then we need an interaction trigger from the character, the player. Once the player interacts with it, then we need to instantiate the pickaxe in the on the player. So we're going to use an attach prop, prefab on player's right hand. So that's where we come to our, where this is, the basic pickaxe. Go here. And we can set up the offsets later, I guess, when we see where it goes. We're going to have to adjust that. And then we're going to enter the state. We're going to use the same mining state we used for the other one. So mining, the same animation, what it'll do on layer 1. But then it'll mine and it will destroy this rock. Let's see what we have. Okay, where's the... I'm not seeing the... Well, we may have to go higher for the thing. It's probably still inside. But let's see if we can interact with it anyway. Let's create an interaction marker thing. That way, we could put it on the edge, not in the middle. Okay, that might be too far inside. If we move it out here, then we can interact with it right here. And then we put the hotspot in there. Yeah. And okay. I'm not sure what y equals 5. If it was way up, that's way too high. Should be good. Should be y equals 2. Okay. And then this trigger, come in here. We'll trigger it in here, okay. And we want to turn off is controllable as well. We also want to move the player to this marker. So let's do that. Move to the marker. Okay. And then I'm going to apply all overrides. And we'll see if that works now. There we go. There we go. I think it was just too far inside the object, away from the character. So now we're mining it for, it may not be hitting the trigger. So we need to fix that. And we need to fix where the pickaxe is showing up in the player's hand. All right, so let's figure out the pickaxe situation here. So what we're going to do to the pickaxe is we're going to manually put it in the player's hand right now as a child. So we'll instantiate it there just so we can see where it is. And then we're going to move it to 0, 0, 0. So that's where it will appear when it gets instantiated. So as we can see, it's inside the player. So we need to adjust this position so that it appears, and we'll rotate it. We'll rotate it this way, I think. And we need to put it in the player's hand. So we'll do that. And then make it longer, maybe there. We'll try that, and then we'll just go into play mode and take a look at it. And we'll take a look at it in the scene view here. So yeah, it looks good, instantiated in the player's hand. So we're going to use those settings. What we'll do is we will lock this, and then we will go in here, properties. So we're going to instantiate it. Where do we instantiate it? Not there. The interaction one. So we're going to attach the prefab here, and we're just going to use the same position and rotation that's right there. So negative 0.134, 0.095, 0.025, negative 0.845, 0.683, and 100.706. Okay, so that should do it when it instantiates. We're going to hide this one so that in case we need it again, but we'll hide it and then unlock. So we're going to attach the prefab and then the mining. See if we can at least get the mining state going and have it hit the collider. Right. So then we're going to look over here and see. It's not hitting. Okay, let's see. Mining animation is playing as we want it to. It is going into the collider, but for some reason it's not triggering anything. Let's make sure the pickaxe has the tag pickaxe, yeah. Okay. Right, so we're going to make sure when we're tagging our pickaxe that the object with the colliders is what has the tag. So we need that to also have a tag of pickaxe so that these two colliders that it has have that tag. Otherwise, it won't work. Now let's see if it works. The other thing I want to do is change this so that the radius is 5. Just add explode. Okay, and we also need a rigid body on this component as well. Right, and we're going to give it 100 mass. No linear dampening, and we'll see what happens when it gets instantiated. It is generating rocks, so that's a good thing. I'm not sure where they're going. Let's just pause this. We'll see where they are. Where are they? I think they're falling through the world. So that's it. Yeah, they're all falling through, I think. Oops. Round. Whoop. We want, okay, so we want this marker to be a little bit above the ground, I think. Like it's probably too far down under. Let's just move it. See, it's under the ground, so I'm gonna move it that, and then this marker. And we don't want it to be under the ground either. So let's try that. There we go. So now we're getting some rocks, and they're flying out a little bit. So that looks pretty good. So, but we don't want an unlimited number of rocks. So, but this is a good start. So now, the lighter, it is reducing the hit points, but we want to have an event trigger stats on attribute change. So we're going, and it's not the player, it's the self rock. If once the HP changes, then we want to check conditions and stats, compare attribute, self, HP is less than or equal to 0. Then this is where we will instantiate the fractured copy. Instantiate the fractured one. That's this one. And the position should be at the, is it the self position? Self position, because it is the rock and self rotation. So, and then we're going to destroy self. And we're also going to end the state, exit the state. Stop state in the player. And is controllable. Is true. And then destroy it, and then it should leave behind the fractured thing. And then we'll have all of our pieces still. Let's see if this works. And it worked. But we only got one piece out of it. Okay. That's where we have to tweak. How many hit points is it going to remove? Instead of 25, if we do 10, we should be able to get more hits in, because what it's doing is hitting the collider on the way in and maybe twice every time, because the pickaxe has 2 colliders on it, so it might be hitting it multiple times, so we only get 1 hit out of it. So if we reduce it to 10, we'll see that maybe we're going to get more rocks out of it. So let's see. Yeah, 4 hits. That's good. And then, so we have a few rocks left over. It'll be 3 or 4. And if we want to be able to pick these up, we're going to need to have an item, make an item here. So let's create an item, a small rock item. And that will have the prefab, this rock 3 variant, small rock. And we can set a sprite to it as well. If we use rapid icon, we can get a sprite for it. So that is, where does it go? Oh, rock 3 variant, there you go, small rock. And we can export that. That will be in rapid icon exports. And then we have to make this a sprite. Single, apply that, and then go back to the item. We can use this sprite to define it. And let's give it a max stack of 10 so that it doesn't take up all of the inventory. And we'll leave the rest as default. And next we need to put we might want some linear damping on this too, because it's sort of going quite high up. So if we put 5 on it maybe. And then we want to put a hotspot on interaction focus. And we'll say small rock for this one. Constants up. And the prefab is going to be interaction tooltip focus. And the trigger, what to do a trigger for interaction. And if the player interacts with it, we are going to add the item to the player's. We'll add the item rock, small rock, to the player's bag, and then we will destroy self. And then we'll have it in the inventory. So let's see how that works. And we have a few small rocks here, so we can pick those up. If you had a pickup animation, you could play that in that same trigger as well. We got a few. How many did we get? We got 10 small rocks out of it. So it's just a matter of tweaking how much, where the collider is and how many hit points it has and stuff to how many you want out of it. So, oh, and the other thing we forgot to do is drop the pickaxe. So we'll do that as well. So when the rock is destroyed, we're going to also remove the prop from the player. That would be the pickaxe prop. Remove it from the player as well. Otherwise, it'll be in the player's hand, or it won't come out. It'll stay there. So that's it. So it looks like it's working. Right, so the next thing we can do is put in some sound effects. So when, like the Pyrite ore has, we could put a mining sound effect in here. So if we go to the trigger collider for the rock, and when it collides here, we can do a play sound effect. And let's see if we have any audio clips here that I can use. Pick hit 1. Pick hit 10 is good. That comes with the Shatter Stone Starter Kit, so if, you could always get some sound effect that you have from another pack, but I'll use that one. So we'll play the sound effect every time it collides. And the other thing we can do is when it shatters. We can do a sound effect there. So let's do that. Play the sound effect. And there's one here in the called Shatter 1 that's from the Shatter Stone Pack as well, but we can use it for this too. So right here. And then that should do it. So, and then when we're picking up a rock, let's see. The Rock 3 variant, when we're picking it up, we can also play a sound effect there. Pick up one. Pick up one. Go. So now we'll get some sound effects. So that's it for the mining system. Hope this helped you. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. And like, subscribe. And for more videos, the next video I'm going to do is a farming system video. So we'll see how to use a free farming pack that has crops with multiple stages of growth. And we're also going to see how to use there's a paid asset that I'm going to show as well. So we're going to use both of those, similar to this mining video, but for farming. So stay tuned for that one. That'll be coming up in the next video. So that's it for today. And thanks to all my patrons. Your support is much appreciated. And we will see you in the next one.